Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about American politics and the Snyder Cut. All right, so let's talk about exactly what the Snyder Cut is and how it impacts American politics and how American politics impacts the Snyder Cut. So, the biggest overlap with politics on this story is streaming. So streaming continues to be just an absolute massive driver of cultural change and economic growth for the United States of America. So America owns the three biggest streaming companies in the world. They're all American: Netflix, Amazon, and oh, why am I forgetting the other one? So those two are actually Netflix is driving almost everything that's going on in streaming right now. And then of course, and Disney Plus. Sorry, Disney Plus, Amazon, and and Netflix are by far the largest streaming companies. But today, the Snyder Cut was announced. Now, what exactly is the Snyder Cut? Well, the Justice League was supposed to be Warner Brothers' big, like, coalescing competitive film that competed with Marvel Universe, and it was supposed to put the DC cinematic universe into the same space as Marvel. It utterly failed to do that, and actually, Justice League is widely considered to be a failure overall. Okay, so when you think about the DC universe, the DC cinematic universe, it has really been a tale of sorrow and woe. Warner Brothers has taken the best comic book characters in the world and really delivered a hot mishmash mess of a consolidated world. They just had a $1 billion movie last year called Joker that has no connection to anything they've done previously. The person they picked for Batman was an absolute burnout failure. He just quit after I think like two movies. Didn't seem to be excited. Ben Affleck didn't seem to be excited to be Batman. People weren't excited to see him as Batman. It was a mess, and the DC cinematic universe has been a hot mess to begin with, right? Well, Justice League, here's the thing: Justice League was so important and so critical that literally the hopes of multiple industries were put upon that film, right? Because when you have a Marvel level cinematic universe, you are driving business for t-shirt makers, for toy makers, for video game makers, all these kind of things, and multiple industries, right? And you could have done the same thing on the DC side because Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, these are iconic characters, right? You shouldn't be struggling to make $1 billion with movies like this, and yet Warner Brothers did, right? In fact, you know you're in trouble when the only $1 billion DC movie is Aquaman. What? Like, how does that make any sense, right? So, Justice League is widely considered to be a failure. So, what happened with that is there's a big question mark on what happened with it. So, Zack Snyder was the original director. He entered into making that film. He had a life event and then he exited making that film. There's a huge question mark now, back then, and there's a big question mark now of what really happened. Was Zack Snyder asked to leave by Warner Brothers? Did he have a life event which stopped him from finishing it? That question is in the air, and there's really no good answer for it because um, it's almost like the companies really can't say the truth about it because it might make some people upset, which I totally understand that. Also, personal life events are personal life events. Are they? Bernie walked through his okay. I don't know. It's tricky, right? But the Snyder Cut is so Zack Snyder came in and cut Justice League, and then had to exit before the movie was over. Okay, or he did exit before the movie was over. That's a better way of saying it. Joss Whedon, who had done the he specifically did the Avengers Age of Ultron film, and so Joss Whedon came in and did Avengers: Age of Ultron, and that thing made well over $1 billion. And Whedon, and so DC was excited to be able to have a Marvel director on this thing. So he came in, he sliced this. So Joss Whedon sliced the movie apart and then produced the movie we have. And that brought up this huge moment on the internet where people were like, okay, so what is. So the Snyder Cut is awesome. And we got to see the Whedon cut, which was terrible. But if we get the Snyder Cut, it's going to be amazing, right? And so they started calling for it. They called for the Snyder Cut, the Zack Snyder cut of the movie, right? So this became a huge thing on the internet, and it's been called about. People have been calling for it for like 3 years, saying, "Hey, give us a Snyder Cut, give us a Snyder Cut." Now, why didn't Warner Brothers give the Snyder Cut? Well, there's some real good reasons why. Okay, and so the reason why we're talking about this in context of politics is this is a massive historical event in a massive economic industry for the United States of America, which is streaming. Okay, and this is not small in any way because there's so many billions of dollars on the line here. There's a good chance that like what we're talking about now may come in at some point as a discussion point in like should these two companies be able to merge, right? Things like that. And also these streaming is so large now that we are going to start to see laws. We're going to see taxes, policies, and highlights from the government that push one company above another, right? Or help one company and hurt another company, right? And everybody's jumping into the streaming game. Okay, all right. So the Snyder Cut is truly historically important from this perspective. So one, HBO Max is releasing the Snyder Cut, and they are putting $20 million in this. So, first of all, this is unprecedented. There has never been an edit of a movie that cost $20 million, right? People are wondering what Zach's walking away with. Is he walking away with $5 million, $10 million just for some editing cuts, right? The other thing that's really interesting here is the idea that this was going to be a straight edit is gone. There's going to be additional scenes. They're going to make this movie into 6 separate 35-minute episodes that will be released. Okay? Now that's a lot of time. That's an hour and 10 minutes. That's like 3 hours and 30 minutes. So you're taking like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie and making it in 3 hours and 30 minutes. And they're going to change, they're going to cut some stuff, they're going to add some stuff, and they're going to change a whole lot of things. And so this is a huge change. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, this is the genie being pulled out of the bottle. Okay? And here's the thing. I think the Snyder Cut is going to be for movies what the mobile phone was for humanity. Great from a lot of perspectives and horrible from a lot of perspectives. So one, uh, this is good from the perspective of it is already proven that just recutting a film that people were unhappy with can be a multi like can be a eight figure eight figure project. We didn't know that before, right? Just slice up a movie, add a couple scenes, cut a couple scenes. That's $20 million of business. And if you're talking about HBO, this probably ain't gonna be $20 million worth of business. It could be 50 or 100 million by the time it's done, right? And all this is supposed to come out in 2021, right? So everybody, just so everybody's going to talk to you about, oh, the Snyder Cut's great, 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 great. I have a lot of concerns. So what does the Snyder Cut really mean? So for films, it really means the death of a definitive version. Okay. Now this has already existed once before in Blade Runner, but Blade Runner was a critics was a critical darling, right? Critics loved Blade Runner, but the common person didn't love Blade Runner. They couldn't give two farts about it, right? I've seen every single version of Blade Runner. There are six. There are six versions of the Blade Runner film. Guess what? That's going to be like every movie over 100 million is going to have six versions after the Snyder Cut. So right now the Snyder Cut is, oh, I'm going to cut up the Justice League movie, right? But I'm predicting now the Snyder Cut is going to become a generic term, right? I'll start it. I want the Snyder Cut of Rise of Skywalker. I want that Snyder, Sniedar, Snyder cut of Rise of Skywalker. right? The one where Rey is not Palpatine's daughter, where Palpatine isn't in the movie, where that green triangle that Kylo Ren is chasing is actually a holocron. And I want to cut about 40 minutes out of that movie, and it's just Rey fighting Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren cuts Rey down, and then becomes Princess Leia's greatest enemy. Give me the Snyder Cut, right? We can all do this, right? Here's another one. I presented. I was a huge fan of 16 Candles, right? I showed this to my kids, and they're like, "Oh, what the heck, man? You can't show this to us. This movie is terrible, right?" I want the Snyder Cut, right? I want Molly Ringwald and was his name Hall? Michael Hall, I think. I want that movie recut and made woke, right? Use all the same, and if you need to use CGI to recreate people and put new words in those people's mouths, great. Let's do it. Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. There will be no definitive version of a movie going forward. That's a new industry, right? That's really a new industry, right? The Snyder Cut industry. Because the reality is, who gives two farts about Justice League, right? Let's do this for everything. If we're unhappy, let's have 25 versions of every movie. Why not? That's what the Snyder Cut is opening the door to, right? And the reality is, the genie's out of the bottle, right? HBO has already promised this. Oh, and let's talk about that, right? This is another thing. When it comes to American politics, our government is supposed to help us say no to things that we should say no to, right? And really, HBO Max is like, the Snyder Cut is ridiculous and HBO Max is ridiculous, right? So this is going to go on to HBO Max, and the reason this needs to go on to HBO Max is Disney has set the Disney Plus set the standard. One, Disney Plus rolled out the gate with 10 million subscribers, right? And again, like, the reason why we're talking this from a political perspective is that carries the English language to other countries, right? Mandalorian has been watched in every single country in the world, right? Is there a single international film that's been watched in every country in the world? Mandalorian was the first thing that rolled out on Disney Plus, right? We really need to start understanding the absolute massive scale of American entertainment. It really is the most powerful force in the world. And right now, we have a lot of problems in our politics because we talk about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, and things that actually matter we don't talk about. The Snyder Cut matters. It's going to change an existing industry, and it's going to build a new industry. Okay, the Snyder Cut is incredibly important, and it's going to bring some good things, and it's going to bring some real bad things. One of the things too is people are going to be able to relitigate artists' work, right? Like here we go. Let's do this. I want this discussion has already started, right? Give me the Snyder Cut of Back to the Future. I want Tom Holland and and Robert Downey Jr. Right? I don't need to see whatever crusty old people were in it, right? Just give it to me with modern people in it. Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. There's going to be no end to this, right? By HBO saying we want to make HBO Max a success and we need our own Mandalorian and everybody will watch the Snyder Cut, right? This opens the Pandora's box and you are not going to be able to put it back, right? I want a new version of Star Wars Episode 9, right? You might want a new version of Steel Magnolias. And a person, and my neighbor might want a new version of, Steven Seagal's entire collection, right? Cutting his ponytail off. Who knows, right? But the reality is, with the power America has, with the money America has, this is very much a situation of a child asking for ice cream for breakfast, right? It's going to be like, oh, that was really fun. Oh, that was great. Wait. There's no definitive version of Star Wars, right? Of the original Star Wars. There's 9 versions of that now. There's 18 versions of that now. There's 50 versions of that now, and there isn't consensus among the community of what it actually is. Oh, wait. So So you saw a version of Rocky that didn't have Sylvester Stallone? What? Like, and this is going to cause major, major problems, right? And one of the things too is everybody's like, "Oh, the Snyder Cut, woo!" What about Joss Whedon? Right? This is an indictment of his work. This is a bad precedent, right? So because people can come back and go, you know what, The Color Purple, I don't think that movie was done really well. I would really, really like to see, James Cameron's The Color Purple. And you're like, wait, what? What? Like, James Cameron can't do a cut of The Color Purple? Why not? Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut. It's going to be, the genie is out of the bottle on this. It is a huge problem. Now let's really get into it. All right, so I've told you the concerns, right? This is a massive change on a massive industry that the U.S. government currently needs to make taxes, policy, and highlights for, right? And I think they're doing a terrible job of those things right now. It's very haphazard, and our government really doesn't understand. Like, we have, here's another one, right? Like our military. Our military is important, right? And there's all these laws and things that are made for it, right? But the reality is, it's incredibly secondary, and we allow this incredibly powerful tool we have, which is American entertainment, to just flap around in the breeze. It's outrageously foolish, right? And I really think we need to rein this in, right? And we need the government to think more carefully about our American entertainment. But here's the other one, okay? The U.S. presidency. Here's you've already seen the Snyder Cut on the U.S. presidency, and there's going to be a Snyder Cut on every single president going forward. That haphazard slop job, uh, um, uh, Nancy Pelosi's, um, oh boy, impeachment of Donald Trump, right? That was saying Snyder Cut. We don't want this president. We're not going to wait for election. We're going to try to edit the presidency. Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, Snyder Cut, right? And guess what? Impeachment's now a tool. Every single party is going to use it on every single president going forward. Just like you use a screwdriver, right? It's meaningless. It's meaningless at this point, right? The shenanigans have already started with Supreme Court justices, right? All kinds of shenanigans going on with Supreme Court justices. And now impeachment's just going to be a tool in the tool belt. And the Democrats are going to use it and the Republicans are going to use it. Snyder Cut, right? I don't like this president. I don't want him to be president. Snyder Cut, impeachment. Let's see if we can get this to work. It's crazy. We are in crazy time. So I really think the Snyder Cut is incredibly important. Overall, I don't think the Snyder Cut is a good idea. Honestly, I would love to see a new version of Episode 9. And I'm going to start, I will call for it because Snyder Cut's real. They're not going to roll this back. HBO Max's promise of the Snyder Cut, that's a promise you have to deliver, right? If they don't deliver this, they lose their business. I'm convinced of that. Right? You cannot promise people certain things and then roll those promises back. Joe Biden's promise for a female president. I've heard a bunch of nonsense talk that he could pick Andrew Yang. No, he cannot. No, he cannot. Right? There's like one path that he could pick Andrew Yang through. I'm not even going to discuss that. But the reality is he cannot go back on that promise. Same thing with Snyder Cut. It's got to get delivered. So I think the Snyder Cut is incredibly important. And also, I think it's really important for us to understand that there are huge changes coming in these industries. And the reality is, right now, the greatest minds in the world are not thinking about this stuff, and we need to get that changed. All that's my opinion. What do you think of the Snyder Cut? Do you think that it's going to be net good, net bad? I'd love to hear what you think. Also, what movie do you want a Snyder Cut of? Let me know that in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.